Hey traders, welcome back to another daily profit and loss recap video. Today is Tuesday, June 13th. I just finished up trading for the morning and I locked in $227 in profits. Nothing crazy, but we had two trades, one of them a winning trade and one of them a losing trade. And thankfully the winning trade was able to outweigh that losing trade, so it still ended up being a profitable day. And in this video I'm going to break down these two trades, talk about my thought process behind them, so hopefully you could take something from my trading and apply it to your own. Alright, so the first trade today was with FWBI. This was a stock gapping up big in pre-market. We could see it had this big spike up from the previous day's closing price of $1.14 all the way up to a pre-market high of $2.94. Now, I actually posted in the Market Master group that I was going to be paying a little bit less attention to these stocks that were having big gap ups in pre-market, and my focus was going to be a little bit more on the trade plans and some of the smaller gappers like YS, BRSH, IBIO, because of the fact that recently these big gappers, the ones that are up 50, 100% in pre-market, tend to have very little follow through at the market open. So you're probably wondering what changed and why I decided to get into FWBI. And that is simply due to the fact that at the market open, we can see it kind of just trades sideways for really the first half hour or so once the market does open. So I was expecting it to start fading down and end up closing towards the low. Statistically speaking, that's what this setup is most likely to do, but I was expecting there to first be a quick spike through this $3 level to kind of force out some of the short sellers before it did start to come down. So because of that thought process, once I saw it started to consolidate here above VWAP, I took a starter position in the 270s, anticipating that it was going to squeeze real quickly through 3. And once that, of course, ended up not working out, I started to cut losses and was stopped out on this trade in the low 260s once it started to crack back under VWAP. At that point, I figured that there was really not much of a chance of it getting back up to $3 per share or higher. So I cut losses on the trade, ended up with a loss of $260 on that trade alone. Not bad at all, and if you've watched the recent videos, in one of them I talked about how I like to keep losses small, and that's a very, very important aspect of trading because you're going to have losses even if you're the best trader in the world, and it's important that those losses are small so your winning trades can still easily outweigh those losing trades. And I did a solid job of the things that I talked about in that video on this trade in particular because I kept my position small since there was still no confirmation that the trade was going to move in my favor. And then I quickly cut losses once it started to move against me, and it started to show me that there was very little chance of it actually going with the initial plans that I had in my mind. So that was the first trade for me today. The winning trade was with the stock YS. This was one of the stocks that I was watching in pre-market for a potential gap and go. Like I mentioned time and time again, these stocks that spike up very early in the pre-market session and then fade down into the market open, a lot of times will have a nice bounce back up at the market open once volume starts to come back in. So if we go ahead and zoom into the open a bit here, we can see the opening range breakout level in this case is going to be the high of this first candle up here, which is $1.62. So if I draw that on the chart, this is going to be our opening range breakout line. So once it started to finally, after about 30 minutes of kind of just trading sideways and fading a little bit, break above that opening range breakout level, I took a starter position in this trade, and then I added more shares into this trade once it started to bounce off of that 160 level, because 160 early in the morning at the market open was acting as a bit of resistance. So seeing that it's now turning into a little bit of short-term temporary support is a bullish sign for another push to the upside. And that's why I decided to add into this trade. I didn't get all of my shares filled. I ended up with a total of 5,508 shares. And my average price on this was just over $1.60. I ended up with a really solid exit on most of my shares. As it pushed back up into the peak of this previous high in the 170s, I locked in a good portion of my shares and a good portion of my profits. And then once we saw this rejection here on big volume from a high of $1.78 straight down to within the same minute a low of $1.67, again on high volume, that made me a bit worried that this was just a quick false breakout above this previous high and that this wasn't going to continue to hold this trend and be able to break through VWAP. So once it started to pull back under 170, I locked in the rest of my profits, and that ended up being the right decision here because we could see it ended up fading back under that opening range breakout level and is currently trading at 150. So on that trade, I ended up with a $488 profit, which took me from a $260 loss for the morning up to a $227 profit. So again, nothing crazy, but if you've been watching these profit and loss recap videos, you know that most of the time, the stocks that I tend to trade are the stocks that are gapping up in pre-market. And lately, these stocks gapping up big in pre-market have been very weak at the market open. There's not been many big gap and goes lately. There's not been much follow through. So for the past week or so, it's been a little bit tricky to trade the setups that I typically tend to focus on. So being able to lock in any profits at all with the strategies that I use in these current market conditions is a pretty solid win in my opinion. And if we give an example here, MGIH today was one that also was gapping up big in pre-market. This is pretty much exactly what we've been seeing happening with these big gappers in pre-market. They'll spike up at the market open, reject straight back down, and end up fading for the rest of the day. So if you are like me and you try to trade these setups as well, this is a good time to have a little bit of a short bias on these setups. Maybe look for these spikes at the market open to actually start scaling into a short position using the pre-market highs to risk off of. And then by doing that, you can actually profit from these stocks getting rejected and fading back to their lows. I'm most likely going to start doing that myself over the next couple of days until we do start to get some big gap and goes again. And that's just the way that the market works. Every once in a while, there's going to be times where your strategy performs really well. And then there's going to be other times where your strategy is not working very well with those current market conditions. And sometimes you have to adapt and change up your strategy a little bit to reflect what the market is actually giving you. Okay, so those were my main focuses for the morning. I ended up with $227 in trading profits. Pretty anticlimactic start to the week so far, but hopefully things will pick up in the next couple of days. But regardless, I hope you found some value in this video. And if you did, please make sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to hear about these stocks that I'm trading in real time, work with our team of traders, watch our live scanner streams, and get our trade alerts, there's going to be a link down below in the description for you to come join us in the Market Master group. Thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and good luck with your trading.